Hi, welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video. What we're making today is one of these. Now, they are a few different names. Originally they were called kerchiefs. They're also known as bandanas, but they're not technically a bandana. But anyway, not this one. We are going to be making this one, and this is how you can wear them. You can also tie down here at the neck as well. This is the one I'm going to be showing you. It just uses the granny stitch and a simple lace edge. Nothing too complicated, and a fairly simple and quick project that you can make with standard stitches. So let's get on with it. So this is the kerchief that we're going to be making today. Now they're originally called kerchiefs because they were made from square pieces of material folded in half, and then people tied them around the head. So this is the shape of the square handkerchief that people used to use to make the head coverings, made in crochet form. I also have this one, which I can do a video on. If you're interested, just write it in the comments and we will do that one. But today's one is the more simpler one. Well, more simpler in the middle. So basically all it is a triangle shape with ties and a little bit of a lace edge. I generally like to make the kerchiefs in a cotton. So I've got this cotton here. Well, it's actually not cotton, but it's a bamboo and wool, but you're going to make it in something that has no stretch. See, this has no stretch. So what will happen is it'll be the stitches that give you the stretch, not the yarn. So it should hold its shape for you for longer, and you'll be able to wash it more frequently. This is Billy yarn, which I got from Spotlight, done by Birch, and like I said, it is bamboo and wool, but it's 80% bamboo. That means it doesn't have the stretch. It says it's an 8-ply, but it's actually very slick. I would say it's a thin 8. The recommended size is 4, but I'm going to be using a 3.5 because we want it quite structural. We don't want it loose. One ball will be ample for this. You'll actually have leftover from your trim colour. I might actually use the blue and this. I think that will look much nicer. So the blue will be the brown part, and then this will be the edging. So first thing we're going to make is the brown, and then we do the ties and the trim with the other one. So I'll get organised to do that, and I'll be back to get started. We need to make a triangle for the center part, and we need to make it. Now this is for an average adult head, and if you've got someone that's got a bigger head, all you do is make the ties longer. So this is 42 centimeters on the long side by, oops, sorry about the noise, I'm going to say 17-ish. It's probably 17.5. So that's what size triangle you need to make. You can actually do any stitch in here that you can make into a triangle shape. That's why I have the dragonfly one, because that also works. And what we're going to need to do, this is just granny stitch. This is the way up. We start at this bottom corner and we're building out on both sides until we get to the size we want. And we're going to be doing 19 rows. I'm just going to get you started maybe on the first 3 rows so you know how to start and how to do each corner. And then I will come back once I've done the square. So you pick up your yarn. And the only thing I don't like about this yarn is you have to use it from the outside because it has cardboard in the middle and they're really annoying. So we make our slip knot like that. I will do that twice because people like to see slip knots. Short end, long end. Turn them over. Hold the short end, long end over your finger. Pull it over. That gives you a slip knot. We will put our hook in. Once again, it is a 3.5 millimeter. We will also put our eyes on so we can see what we're doing. And you want to chain 2, 3, and then we want to go like that, and we're going back into the very first chain and pick up a loop, then pick up another loop, pull through 2 and pull through 2. This is a double crochet, double meaning twice. Pick up a loop, go back through the same hole, and then we pick up a loop and go through 1 and then 1 again. So we've done, counting the chain, we have 3. This is our first granny cluster. So what we do now is we chain up 3, 2 and 3. Now we want to turn that over. Now we're on the back, and if you can see that little hole there, that little hole right there, we pick up a loop and we're going into that hole. I'm doing, all of this is done in double crochets, and it's usually the first stitch that you end up learning. We are not going to be putting any stitches between the clusters, so that gives us 1 and 2. Pick up a loop. Now you want to get, this is your chain from the last row, you need to turn it over a little bit and then poke it through. So we're going through the chain, we're not going in the hole, we're going under 2 loops of the chain. Pick up a loop, 1 and 2, pick up another loop through the hole, and then we pull through 1 and 2, and we need 1 more, all in the same hole, 1 and 2. Before we got 3 now, 1, 2, 3. You can see by the little holes where they all attach. So we go 1, 2 and 3. Turn what's in your hand over, and now we're ready for the next row. Pick up a loop. Every outside edge cluster goes in this very first hole, which is the top of the DC we did on last on the row. The chain up is always your first, that counts as your first DC, and we put 2 more in that same hole. That's your first cluster done. You see how we're spreading out on both sides? Now the next one goes between these clusters. If you just spread them apart, I might just move that out the way so you can see better. Spread apart the clusters. There's a big hole here, bigger than any other hole. That's the one you want. You go in there, pick up a loop, pull it back through. 1 and 2. Once again, you want to put 3 double crochets in this hole. This is a standard granny cluster. Just we're not going in a square like you normally do. We are making a triangle. So that's your middle one. Pick up a loop. Now we're going to go under 2 loops of the turning chain from this row and pull it through. And this is our end cluster. These will be the same on every row, just the amount of clusters you have in the middle changes. Always do 3 double crochets, knowing that your turning chain counts as a double crochet. So now we have 5. We're going up 1 cluster each time, expanding as we go. So we'll chain 3, 2 and 3, turn the work over, pick up a loop. We're now going back into this one. This is the base of the chain we just made. So we just repeat this until you have 19 rows, or it is the height of 17.5 centimeters like we measured a minute ago. So that's our first one. We're going to put 3 in here, 3 in here, and then 3 in there. Like I said, every row is 1 more cluster than the row below. I will be back when I have got to my 19th row, and then I will show you how to do the edging. I have now made the blue triangle, but seeing as this is a different yarn to the original, this is a full cotton yarn, and this blue one has actually worked up slightly smaller. So you want to match the size like we measured with a measuring tape earlier. You want the size rather than the amount of rows. This was 19 rows. This is 23 rows. So we're matching the size rather than the rows. So make sure you always leave yourself a decent tail at the beginning and the end. So I will just show you how we finish this off. I've just done one pull through. I usually do two. So you got 2 chains just there. And then we'll get our scissors and give yourself a decent amount of tail. Cut that off, pull that out. So the second chain that we did has now become our knot. And then we get ourselves a little wool needle. We need to hide our ends so they're not going to annoy the crap out of us later. And yes, I said crap. So thread up your wool needle. This is a wool needle. The end is not sharp. Well, it's still ouchy, but it's not sharp. Now, one thing I wanted to say, I've had a couple of inquiries about this. When you weave in your ends, you're not weaving through the stitches like this. What you need to do is you need to weave through the ply of the yarn. And what do I mean by that? If you can see on here, the yarn is twisted around itself. It's like a spiral, or it looks like a rope. That yarn has been plied, which means it's been twisted upon itself, and it generally holds itself together with the plying. You need to get this end through the ply of the previous yarn. So you want to go into the ply and into the ply. You're breaking up the twist. And what you also want to do is you want to pull that through so that the knot is still there. You don't want to lose that knot because that's the corner of your work. But then you want to come back the other way. So that's why you leave yourself a generous tail, because you want to do it more than once. Twice is good, 3 is better. So we're just breaking the plies. Use the point of the needle to break up the plies, and you want to change directions so that if you pull this yarn somehow, it snags, it's not going to be pulled out in the direction it went in. So I have enough to do it 3 times, so I'm going to do it 3 times. 3 times makes a knot, which means once I pull that through, straighten up the knot, wiggle it flat, we can cut that off close to your work. And that is how you weave the end in. So if I just wiggle that, because I've gone back, forward and back, it's not going to come out. So I'll just quickly do the same with the other end. I'm not going to talk it through for you, but we'll just quickly do it. We will. This one is slightly smaller than the first one, but it still should be enough. Break the plies. Pull through. Turn it over. Make sure you don't lose your point. Pull the raw end. So I'll only have enough for twice for this one, but it should still be enough because we also have the knot that begun the work. Wiggle it so it lays flat. So that's how you weave your ends in, and this is why people actually really hate weaving ends in, because you've got to do that for every single end you have. So that is our base piece. It is the right size. I've kept putting it over the top of the previous one. When I can pick that up, get that out the way. And I still have around that much left. Now this yarn was only 50 grams worth with 95 meters on the ball. My guess would that be just under half, because I can actually feel the cardboard. So if you've got scrap yarn of about a half a 50 gram ball, you should be able to make the biggest part of the kerchief. So for my trim, I thought I'd use this one so it is distinctly different from the one we started with. And the first thing you want to do, I am someone who doesn't like having lots of ends because of the weaving in. So I like to do my trim all in one piece. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to chain 52 stitches. And what that does, it gives us the first part of the tie. And then we're going to come back and then we're going to attach it to the triangle. So I don't think you need to see me chain 51 pieces. We're just going to do a slip knot like that. You can also do foundation single crochet, but that is a little bit more difficult. We're trying to keep this one simple. So I'm going to do these 51. You don't need to hear me count to 51, so I'll be back when that is done and I'll show you how to work back along the chain. So I've done my 51 chains. Now if you look, every chain has 3 parts. We have the V shape on the front, either side, and then when you turn it over, there's a bump on the back, often called the back bump or the third loop. So what we're going to do with our chains is we want to come back 2 from the hook, turn it over, and then we want to pick up the back bump. Pick up a loop. Now you need to hold the underneath so it doesn't get too long, and then pull through. That is what you call a single crochet. Once again, go for the next back bump, pick it up, pull it through. And we're going to do that all the way back along. But see, what that does is it puts a line of V's on the bottom and a line of V's on the top and gives you a nice bit of cordage to make our ties with. So once again, every back bump, take your time. Hopefully you haven't done your chain too tight. Pick up a loop, pull it through. Pick up a loop, pull it through. Now, as soon as the bit you've done is long enough, try and hold it with your little finger and it will make it easier. Pick up a loop, pull it through. And we just do that all the way back along those 51 stitches. Pull it through. And I'll be back because then once we've done that, we're going to attach it to this top edge and go along the top and go to the other tie. I've now got all the way back to where I started. This is my tail here. And as you can see, there's V's along that edge and there's V's along the bottom. It makes a nice little thin cord. This type of cording is really good for when you're doing something that needs ties or lacings because it's a little bit stretchy as well. So we've still got our yarn attached here and we're going to pick up our piece of work and we're going to the very end. Now we've got the last row right side facing us. As you can see, there's the V's on the top. If we turn it over, you can't see the V's. So the right side is where the V's are. That's one side, that's another side. And what we want to do is we want to go pick up a loop on our hook and then we want to go under the 2 loops from the chain of the turning chain. But we actually want to go on the other way. So I'll just turn the hook over and pick those up. So we've got 1 loop underneath and 2 loops on top. Pick up a loop. Now this, you got to watch this carefully because we've got to do this at the other end. Pull through. Pick up a loop. Now just pull through the first one and then finish the rest like a half double crochet. What you call that is an extended half double crochet. And the reason why we're doing that, we're going to do half double crochets all the way along, but this very first one is in the second chain. We didn't have a third chain here because we lose that because it's our turning chain. And it just gives that one stitch a little bit more height so that when we do the next stitch, it doesn't dip down to where it's attached. If you can see, that's lower than the next stitch. So we're trying to keep this line as flat as possible. So as I said, every one of these stitches on here will have a half double crochet in them. So that is pick up a loop, go through the hole, pick up another loop, you have 3 on the hook, pick up a 4th loop and pull that loop through the other 3. That is a half double crochet. Pick up a loop, got 3 on the hook, pick up another loop, pull it through all of them. So we're going to continue doing that all the way along. As you can see, when we get to the end, we will tie those two together and it will go straight across. We're going to keep going all the way along here to the end. And in this very last one, we don't need to, because this is our tie off end. So this will be a normal half double crochet. And then we will chain 51 and then come back like we did on this one. I will do all of that and I'll come back when I'm about to attach onto here, show you what I've done, and then I'll show you how to go all the way around the bottom edge because it is different. I have done this tie and across the top with half double crochets. I've got down to the last one, and what we need to do here, this is our beginning knot that we just wove the ending on. We need to go through there just below that knot, wiggle it through, pick up stitch. Now you want to be on that side of the knot because we want this to stay in line with the top of the row. And then what I do is I want to make an inline knot. So I make this loop really big and then I pull everything through, the whole lot. And what that does is it makes a point of stopping for if any of the yarn gets caught or anything, that has made a knot on your work, if you can see there. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to go back through this last loop and pick up a loop and pull it through. And now that has changed my angle. I put a knot there, it's changed my angle, and now I can go this way down the bottom part of the triangle. I'm in line to get started. Now, I wanted to show you on this other one. If you look, we're not looking at, this is probably the best way, sorry. We're not looking at the fans, we're looking at the underneath. If you can see all those little V's, that is the row under the fans. That's what the fans hang off of. And if you can see, they're in pairs. So each of the brown triangle has 2 stitches in it. 2 stitches, 2 stitches, right? That's how you know you're going to have enough for the fans, because the fans cover 4 stitches. So I will move that out the way and show you how to get started. So this is our first blue triangle here. So we need to make sure that we have 2 stitches. So every triangle has the bottom bit where all the double crochets of the triangle went through. If you can see that little hole I'm putting the crochet hook in. So if you make that one of your points, the other point is somewhere between it. And what I usually try and do is I usually try and wiggle my hook into the stitch so that I have some of the stitch above it and at least one loop below it. And all we're doing is single crochet. So my next one will be where all the double crochets went in, and we'll do that. So that's our first pair. Next one, wiggle it through the side stitch, do 1, and then through where all the double crochets were anchored. And you just want to do that all the way down, and that will end up with the whole side will have an even number of stitches, which means our fans will work. When you get to the bottom, you've got where that bottom V is, you want to put 3 stitches in there. We're not going to use the middle stitch, but we'll have one either side for the end fan to go into. If you look here, that's the middle one, either side stitches. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around, and then I will come back and I will show you how to turn and add the fan edge, and then we will be finished. I have done all the way along here. I did the 3 at the bottom, and I've just put a stitch marker in the middle one so I know when it's coming up when I do the next row. And then we've come all the way up here, and I'm now ready to join up this end. Now if you remember, this was our extended half double crochet. This is the beginning of the chain that started the strap. So all we need to do is we go through there, pick up a loop, pull it through. This is what we call a slip knot because we're slipping from one to the other. And then we go, this is our knot. We're going to go behind the knot, hold the string with your little finger behind, and we're going to do another slip knot here, and then one more. And I'll show you why we did that in a sec. Just let me do the last one. So what that has done is it's joined up that corner. It's also made that corner really strong, and it's straightened this line out, the line of the strap going to the triangle. We still have this tail. We will get rid of that later on. So now we want to turn the whole lot around. And now we start doing our fan. Now our fan is 5 double crochets. Now if you remember, every second stitch here, so it's the second V, that's our first V, that's our second. First, second. Every second one is where the DCs all went in when they're in the blue. We want to put the fans in this first ones, not the second ones, because it'll make that hole too big. So, sorry, we picked up a loop, and then we're going to do 5 double crochets, just 2 loops on there, pick up another loop, 3 loops on there, pick up a loop, pull it through 2, and pull it through 2. This is just a standard fan stitch, which means we have 5 double crochets in each fan, like so. That's 4, one more. 5 double crochets. Odd numbers always look better unless you are hanging pairs off of them in a more complex pattern. So we're skipping the one that the double crochets go in. We are going to go into the next one. We are going to the back of the stitch, which is the top of that V. Pick up a loop, single crochet. Then we want to skip that one, because if you look, it's where the double crochets go in, and we're going to do another fan in the next stitch. This is why we had to have a multiple of 2, and that's why we did all the last row in pairs, so that this would work out. I'm just going to do this fan, and then I'm going to tell you what the rest I'm doing, because I don't think you need to see me do hundreds of fans. And for those wondering, it's a minion band-aid. It's got little eyeballs on it, okay? I know I'd be wondering if you see it flashing every now and then. So that's 5, yes it is. So once again, this is the DCs from that row. We don't want that one. We want the next one. Under the loop, pick up a stitch. So you got fan, single crochet, fan, single crochet. That is our pattern. So we're going to keep going all the way down. Now you should land, just put that down. You should land there. That should be a fan. That'll be a skip, and this will be another fan. Now if it's too tight, you can fudge a little, but you can put a single crochet in here, but you don't want a fan landing in here. If you end up like that, pull it out a bit and skip a stitch, or put another stitch in, whichever looks better and lay flat. But if you've done all these in an even number, you should land in the right place. If I show you on the other one, this is what I mean. Single crochet right there. Okay, that is our middle stitch. Fans back here, fans back here. We've got a miss stitch either side of the middle one. Okay, that way this is going to lay flat for us without having a big buckle at the bottom. So that's all you're going to do for that. I will continue this on, and we'll get to here, and I'll show you how to finish that bit off, and then we'll be all done. And we are all finished. Here it is. So all I did was do the stitches like I said, down the bottom, worked out with the single one at the bottom, and then we just slip stitched to the second single crochet here and then hid the ends, same as what we did to start with. Quite happy with how this worked out. The colours look really nice together. So I will bring my little friend over so I can show you how you tie it on. I'll put it that way so you've got a bit of an angle to look at. Make sure it's the right way. And then usually you just lay it over the head, and then you can tie at the back here under the plait, or you can bring it up and tie at the front. Now, this is what I, like I said at the beginning, call a kerchief. I would be interested to know, if you want to put it in the comments, what you would call this type of headgear. I know it's called a bandana now, but I'm pretty sure a bandana is something different. But I will call that in the title because that's what people call it now. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this pattern tutorial, and I will see you on the next one.